What if Pontiac's best creations weren't the ones you remember? What if the real legends were the ones hidden in plain sight, silently waiting in junkyards, garages, and forgotten brochures? 1970 was the last golden gasp of Pontiac's muscle car era. While legends like the GTO Judge and Firebird Trans Am grabbed headlines, a handful of forgotten Pontiacs quietly left the assembly line. Some as oddball experiments, others as marketing afterthoughts, but hidden under chrome, badges, and poor timing were vehicles that deserved a second chance. From family wagons with V8 thunder to base models that could be monsters in disguise, these are the 10 forgotten 1970 Pontiacs that deserved a comeback. Top 1, 1970, Pontiac Ventura Sprint. 250 i6/optional 350 V8. It had the body of a Nova, the soul of a GTO, and the fate of a ghost. The 1970 Ventura Sprint was Pontiac's take on the compact coupe, borrowing the X-Bug shell from the Chevy Nova. But Pontiac gave it flair. Split grille, arrowhead badges, and subtle chrome trim that hinted at performance heritage. Inside, it kept things simple. Bench seats, no-nonsense gauges, and optional floor shifter. A 250 cubic cube inline 6, making a modest 155 horsepower. Decent for commuters, but forgettable on the streets. But ticked the right boxes, and the Ventura became something wild. The optional 350 cubic inch V8 delivered 255 horsepower. With less than 3,200 pounds to push, it could hit 0-60 in around 7.3 seconds. Some dealers even added GTO parts, headers, intakes, suspensions, quietly building street sleepers that outpaced their looks. Sadly, Pontiac never gave the Ventura a real performance variant. No Ram Air, no 400, no Judge treatment. It faded into obscurity as just another economy car. But it didn't have to be. In a world obsessed with resto mods and forgotten legends, the Ventura Sprint could have returned as the Ram Air swapped compact street brawler Pontiac never built. But not every underdog was small. Some hid muscle under wood grain and chrome. Like a certain family wagon that packed 3 rows, and a 400 cubic surprise under the hood. Top 2, 1970 Pontiac Catalina Safari Wagon, 400 V8, 3 rows, wood paneling, and the soul of a street machine. The Catalina Safari Wagon wasn't built for speed. On paper, it was a full-size family hauler, often loaded with roof racks, power tailgates, and third chrome jump seats. A rolling living room made for road trips and suburban duty. But under the long hood, a thundering 400 cubic inch V8, backed by a TH400 automatic and optional safe track rear. Some daring buyers went off Rulu. They spec'd dual exhaust, heavy-duty cooling systems, and upgraded suspension packages. The result? A 3-drone land yacht that could run 15 sequel quarter miles and tow a boat in the same weekend. Weighing in at over 4,300 pounds, the Catalina Safari wasn't nimble, but it had torque. With the right setup, it hit 0-60 in about 7.8 seconds, faster than some base GTOs. The sleeper factor was real. This was a muscle wagon hiding behind faux wood and chrome trim. Today, no one restores these wagons, but the few that do turn heads at every show. Imagine this beast resurrected with a modern 6.2 LV8, coilover suspension, and hidden third chrome seats. The Safari Wagon wasn't just forgotten, it was never truly discovered. Could it be Pontiac's ultimate family performance icon reborn? Top 3, 1970 Pontiac LeMans Sport Convertible, 350 or 400 V8. It had the looks of a GTO, the price of a Tempest, and the fate of a ghost. The 1970 LeMans Sport Convertible was Pontiac's middle child, overshadowed by the flashier GTO and overlooked by buyers chasing either budget or brute power. But visually, it was stunning. Twin scoop hood, GTO-style grille, and Rally 2 wheels. The long body lines flowed smoothly into a sculptured rear, while the power convertible top revealed a surprisingly sporty interior. Under the hood, buyers could spec a 350 or 400 CI V8, topping out at 330 horsepower with the right options. And with the LeMans lighter frame compared to the GTO, this ragtop had real legs. A properly optioned LeMans Sport 400 could sprint from 0-60 in just under 7 seconds, while soaking up sun and screaming Motown from its 8-track. But Pontiac never gave it the spotlight. Most were loaded as cruisers, not bruisers. And as muscle car insurance rates soared, the LeMans Sport was quietly retired from glory. Today it's barely a footnote, its potential as a budget GTO convertible lost in the shadows. But what if it came back? The LeMans Sport had the looks, the drop-top fun, and just enough muscle to be dangerous. Yet history left it in the GTO's shadow. Imagine it today. Reimagined with retro curves and a 455 HO under the hood, it wouldn't just turn heads. It'd rewrite Pontiac's lost legacy. And Pontiac wasn't done hiding power, because the next forgotten car didn't drop its top. It wore a suit, played it quiet, and hid its muscle behind manners. Top 4 1970 Pontiac Grand Prix Model J 404 Barrel Battle Automatic. It had a 10-foot hood, a Landau top, and a badge that said J. But this Pontiac wasn't playing second fiddle. The 1970 Grand Prix Model J was Pontiac's answer to personal luxury muscle, a segment that blended brute power with boardroom polish. While the SJ trim grabbed the spotlight with its 455 HO engine, the Model J was quietly doing the heavy lifting. Its sheet metal was sculpted with menace, a sharp front beak, hidden headlights, and that famously long hood housing secrets of speed. The roofline swept back into a formal Landau vinyl top, while Rally 2 wheels hinted at performance beneath the polish. Inside, the Model J delivered an executive lounge on wheels. Deeply bolstered bucket seats, real wood veneer, thick carpeting, and a wraparound dash that cocooned the driver in style. Even the center console was designed to impress, complete with a horseshoe shifter and integrated gauges. Underneath that velvet glove, a punch. The 400 CIV-8, with 4-barrel carb, made 350 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque. Mated to the TH400 automatic, it could hurl this full-size coupe from 0-60 in just over 7 seconds. Not drag strip dominance, but astonishing for a car of its size and class, and yet few realized it packed that much muscle. Because the Model J wasn't a GTO or Trans Am, it was often dismissed as a cruiser. Most were optioned conservatively and few were preserved. Today, they're almost invisible at car shows, their potential never fully tapped. But with a new powertrain and suspension, the Grand Prix could have been Pontiac's ultimate gentleman's muscle car. Now imagine this. A Grand Prix Model J reborn with a modern 455 crate motor, 6-speed manual, and blacked-out trim. It wasn't just a personal luxury coupe. It was a street brawler in a tuxedo. And Pontiac didn't stop there, because the next forgotten ride? It traded style for stealth. A full-size sedan with 3 pedals, and no business being that quick. Top 5, 1970, Pontiac Executive 400, manual transmission. At first glance, it looked like something your grandfather would drive to Sunday service, but then you spotted it. The chrome Hurst 4-speed shifter poking out from the floor. The 1970 Pontiac Executive was supposed to be a family man's full-size cruiser, sized just below the Bonneville, but with the same luxurious ride and understated elegance. It featured a long, clean profile, chrome accents around the grille and window trim, and padded vinyl roof options that gave it presence without flash. Inside, it was a plush lounge, bench seating with optional cloth or Morocide vinyl, faux wood dash inserts, and even an optional 8-string player. Most came with power steering, power brakes, and air conditioning, standard steam, comfort. And yet, hidden among those serene cruisers was a small batch of rebels. For reasons still debated today, Pontiac quietly allowed the Executive 400 to be ordered with a factory-stalled 4-speed manual transmission, mated to the 400 cubic inch V8 rated at 330 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. This full-size beast could haul all 6 passengers and still chirp second gear. The shifter wasn't on the column, it was floor-roomed raw and ready. These weren't dealer swaps, these were factory-built sleepers. Less than 2 dozen are believed to have ever left the factory with this combo. Most were custom ordered by insiders or mistakenly greenlit through Pontiac's order sheet. They looked like company cars, but they moved like street machines. Sadly, most were either junked, swapped to automatics, or driven into anonymity. Today, surviving four-spoed executives are among the rarest full-size performance Pontiacs ever built. Imagine if Pontiac had embraced this mistake, marketing it as a full-size muscle sedan. Picture a reborn executive, flat black paint, forged 6-speed, and a snarling LS7 under the hood. Muscle car comfort for 6. And this wasn't the only underdog Pontiac forgot. Coming up next, a humble T37 coupe with a V8 heart that never got its day in the sun. Top 6. 1970 Pontiac Tempest T37 350 V8. You walked past it at the dealership, no stripes, no spoilers, just a plain coupe with dog dish hubcaps. But under the hood, it was ready to throw punches. The 1970 Tempest T37 was Pontiac's entry-level midsize coupe, introduced to replace the previous year's Tempest Custom. It wore a simple design, flat panels, minimal chrome, and no frills trim. The grille was clean, the taillights were basic, and the interior featured vinyl bench seats, thin door cards, and barely enough instrumentation to get by. It was Pontiac's budget alternative, lightweight, understated, and completely forgettable to most buyers. But the body was nearly identical to the LeMans, and just a heartbeat away from becoming a GTO. And Pontiac knew it. The T37 could be optioned with a 350 cubic inch V8, producing 265 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque, giving it surprising performance for its class. Weighing in lighter than most GTOs, the 350 medium T37 could hit 0-60 in under 8 seconds, making it a budget brawler hiding in plain sight. Some even came with floor-shifted automatics or 3-speed manuals, further pushing them into sleeper territory. But because Pontiac never marketed it as anything other than economical, the T37 faded into obscurity. Few enthusiasts took notice, and even fewer were preserved. Most were stripped for parts, abused, or ignored at auctions. Today, clean examples are almost impossible to find, and the ones with V8s even rarer. Now imagine a second life, a T37 resto modded with modern suspension, a crate 455 and GTO badging as a wink to what could have been, from unloved commuter to classic street legend. But our next forgotten Pontiac isn't just rare, it's a land yacht with a big luggage on a luxury badge that could have rivaled the modern Charger Hellcat. Top 7. 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge Ram Air 3 4-speed. This wasn't just another Judge, it was a Judge with bite. Picture a suburban muscle icon that could bite back and leave before you saw the claws. The GTO Judge-dominated headlines, but the Ram Air 3 version, in a manual, was pure underground legend. Underneath that iconic scooped hood lurked the ferocious 400 psi motor, with Ram Air 3 heads and cam, rated around 366 horsepower with 445 pound-feet of torque. The Muncie M21/M22 4-speed wasn't just optional, it was essential. It turned this Judge into a quarter-mile Judge of law and power. Visually, from the wild stripes to the Judge badges and Endura front, it screamed Plymouth Hemi. Inside, rally gauges, a Hurst shifter, and tight buckets told you this Judge was pardoned, but only by the bold. It wasn't just fast, it was deceptively fast. In muscle car money tests, these RA3 manuals ran consistently in the low 13s, pulling away from even Ram Air 4 conversions that lacked the manual's raw launch. Dealers referred to them in whispers, almost too quick for the street. But this was 1970. The GTO line was under curfew. Insurance hikes, emission regs, and gas crises meant even this Judge was on borrowed time. Most buyers upgraded to Ram Air 4 or automatic, unaware of what was slipping through their fingers. Today, surviving manual RA3 Judges fetch six-figure sums and are largely mythic. This Judge could hand your Camaro its own "Please judge responsibly" notice. But if you think that's wild, wait till you see what came next. A stripped-down drag monster so raw it was illegal alongside the law. Top 8. 1970 Pontiac Firebird Esprit 350 V8 Luxury Trim. It had the lines of a street racer, but the heart of a lounge singer, and Pontiac wanted it that way. The 1970 Firebird lineup was a bold reset. With the second groom redesign, Pontiac split the Firebird into sharply defined personalities, while the Trans Am screamed muscle, and the Formula 400 flexed street cred. The Esprit quietly slipped on a silk robe. It wore body-colored bumpers, subtle trim, and delicate badging. Even the Rally 2 wheels looked more polished than aggressive. Inside, it was Pontiac's idea of a personal luxury coupe, reclining buckets, faux wood grain, deluxe carpeting, and a quieter ride. It was for buyers who wanted flair without flash. A car that looked fast, but wasn't shouting about it. But here's the twist. The Esprit wasn't slow. Equipped with the optional 350 cubic inch V8, it made 255 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque, capable of 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 8.5 seconds. That may not sound blistering, but it was quicker than base Camaros and Mustangs, and smoother doing it. The Esprit blended muscle and manners, aimed at drivers who wanted refinement with bite. Unfortunately, it never got its due. Overshadowed by the Trans Am's fame and the Formula's edge, the Esprit faded into background noise. No movie cameos, no tire-smoking legends, just a good-looking cruiser with underutilized potential. Most were driven, worn out, and forgotten. But imagine it today. Restomod styling, LS3 swap, active exhaust, leather-wrapped digital dash. The Esprit could finally become what Pontiac hinted at, a Camaro RS killer wrapped in grace. And speaking of forgotten muscle, our next Pontiac wore the GTO badge, but came with the weakest setup ever bolted under its hood. Top 9, 1970 Pontiac GTO 400, 2-barrel base. It wore the legendary GTO badge, it had the Endura nose, the dual hood scoops, and the wide-stance muscle car look. But under the hood, a 2-ton-barrel carb and a whisper instead of a roar. In 1970, Pontiac's GTO lineup was stacked with monsters, 455 hose, Ram Air 3S, even the Judge. But deep at the bottom of the options sheet was a version nobody talks about. The base GTO with a 400 SI2 Bubarel V8. That's right, a GTO with no ram air, no 4-barrel carb, no bravado. Just a modest 255 horsepower, 397 pound-feet of torque, and a 0 to 60 time hovering around 8.5 seconds. It looked the part. Endura front bumper, Rally 2 wheels, and the unmistakable GTO stance. Interior-wise, you still got the buckets, wood grain dash, and optional center console. From the curb, it fooled everyone, but on the street, it couldn't outrun a Chevelle Malibu. Why did it exist? Insurance. By 1970, muscle car premiums were skyrocketing. Pontiac needed a budget GTO to sneak past insurance agents who judged a car by its badge, not its carburetor. So they created a version that looked fast, but wasn't. Most buyers skipped it. Those who didn't often tore out the 2-barrel setup and upgraded to a 4-barrel or full ram air system. Original examples are almost extinct because nobody cared enough to preserve one. Today, a true 2-barrel GTO survivor is rarer than a Judge. But imagine the comeback. Keep the sleeper look, stuff a modern 6.2 LV8 under the hood, and give this forgotten GTO a second life as a Restomod street assassin. Because next up, we revisit Pontiac's final gentleman's muscle car, a car that packed a 455 HO and a 4-speed in a tuxedo. Top 10, 1970 Pontiac Grand Prix SJA, manual 455 HO. It looked like a banker's car, long hood, chrome trim, formal roofline. But one stomp of the gas pedal, and suddenly, this suit-and-tie cruiser was eating Camaros for lunch. The Grand Prix was Pontiac's personal luxury flagship, a leather-pumed missile for the executive who still remembered street racing. Most 1970 Grand Prix SJs came with automatic transmissions and luxury options galore. But a handful ordered with something wild, a 455 HO V8 paired with a factory 4-speed manual. Externally, it was all class, hidden headlights, sharp body lines, and a sweeping profile that looked more Riviera than Roadrunner. Inside, it was pure decadence. Wood grain dash, reclining bucket seats, center console with a Hurst shifter, and enough sound insulation to feel like a Cadillac. Under the hood was the beast, Pontiac's 455 HO, pushing out 370 horsepower and a jaw-dropping 500 lb-Fm torque. Paired with the manual, this full-size bruiser could hit 0-60 in under 6.5 seconds. That's muscle car territory disguised in luxury sheet metal. Hardly anyone ordered this configuration. It didn't fit the image. Most SJ buyers didn't want to shift gears, they wanted to glide. As a result, manual transmission SJ455S are nearly mythical today. A few survive in private collections, but they rarely surface. Their uniqueness makes them unicorns in Pontiac history. Now imagine a modern Grand Prix SJ revival. Retro styling, a twin-turbo V8, 6-speed manual, and active suspension. A gentleman's express with a violent streak. Because while the world forgot this one existed, real car lovers know better. This wasn't just a luxury coupe, it was Pontiac's hidden hammer, and it might be the most deserving comeback of them all. Some of these Pontiacs were overlooked, others were overshadowed. But every single one had the potential to become a legend, if only history had given them a second chance. From sleeper sedans to muscle wagons, Pontiac's forgotten class of 1970 proves that greatness doesn't always wear racing stripes. Thanks for joining us on this ride through Pontiac's lost icons. If you enjoyed this count, hit that like button, subscribe to Top 5 Classic Cars, and drop a comment. Which forgotten Pontiac would you bring back today? We'll see you in the next episode.